What parts of behavioral design can AIs do well right now? They're really good at summarizing literature. You'll note that I use the word summarize and not conduct a literature review. That's intentional. If you ask ChatGPT in particular to basically create a literature review for you on a given topic, it sometimes will completely make up articles, but it will create very compelling examples that you think are real, gives you a summary of what that paper supposedly says, and then you'll Google it and realize actually that doesn't exist. What's better, I think, at the moment is to take large parts of an article that you're reading and copy and paste it into ChatGPT and ask it to summarize it. It does a really, really good job of that. There are other AI systems that are being developed at the moment that are getting better at actually conducting literature reviews and making sure it doesn't produce false results, but that'll be another couple of months before they're really refined. What parts of behavioral design do AI struggle with, or how are we going to all keep our jobs? One is experimental design, and let me just show you an example. What I did here was I just gave it a prompt, and I said, imagine you're a behavioral scientist and you want to run an experiment to measure whether female Tinder users are more likely to reply to humorous messages rather than earnest messages. And you'll see here a super long and detailed response where it's going through like the 7 or 8 main steps of any experiment that you would have to do. When you start to pick apart parts of this though, it's not perfect. So it says like you want to control for some potential confounds. They might be things like age, education level, occupation, and relationship status. That's a good start, but it didn't consider probably one of the most important ones, which would be location. When we ran this study in actuality, we made sure that the profiles that we were using to send these messages were matched based on location, because people are much more likely to respond to people when they're nearby versus when they're far away. So it misses important variables that you should control for. If we look at this section on data collection here, it says, oh, you should ask people after they're receiving the message to rate it on a Likert scale from 1 to not funny to very funny. We did that as part of a pretest, but that's not how you would run an actual field experiment. It's unlikely that a load of Tinder users are going to take the time to rate the message and send it back to you and say, oh, I found that a 5 funny or a 1 not funny. In reality, what we did was we measured reply rates because that's a more objective behavioral outcome. This is just to make the point that it's a pretty convincing answer. It's written very nicely. It has got some things correctly, but it misses a lot. And so just to say, AIs do struggle with things like considering the full implications of experimental design. So imagine, right, that you spent a couple of months designing a new program that brings top coders into low-income areas to help struggling students. What might make it hard to scale an intervention like that? There are exactly these problems. We have a limited supply of great coders. There's only so many coders who we would say are in the top 10%. And similarly, they're likely to cost a lot. And not only that, if we start hiring them at higher and higher rates in order to scale our program, their salaries are only going to start to go up and up as they become even more in demand. And similarly, even if the top 10% coders are great, the ones that we have in our program might have been particularly good at teaching, for example. And so it's hard to train all of our coders to be equally effective at training in the way that our program delivered this particular intervention. AI changes a lot of these things. AI-powered instruction software scales much more easily. And the reason that AI is going to be a game changer in areas like this is that the marginal cost of deploying an AI educational tool is tiny. Deploying an extra instance of the AI basically costs nothing. If the person already has a device, it's the cost of them opening another website. And similarly, you'll have no or little to variation in teaching quality. When we train the AI in order to do this effectively, and we've shown an experiment that it actually is effective at teaching, we can then say with high confidence that this thing is going to be just as good at teaching the next person and the next person, and that we don't need to worry about the fact that some people or some coders are better at teaching than others.